Hi, I'm Tyler.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Chloe.
We're tutors in the Econ Tutoring Center. Today we're going to be going over some problems about income elasticity. Remember that notation language, in particular in this case, may change by professor, so always check to confirm that what we're using is the same as your professor.
So in this problem, Alice's income goes up by $5,000 and she buys 8 less CDs as a response to that. So what can we say about her price elasticity of demand for CDs? So the formula for price elasticity of demand is the percent change in quantity demanded based on the percent change in price. We don't have enough information in this scenario to determine this, so this is a situation where her income increased and her demand for CDs decreased. If we were looking for price inelasticity, we would need the change in quantity demanded in response to a change in price. So, like I said, we don't have enough information. We can't say anything about Alice's price elasticity of demand for CDs. However, we can say something about Alice's income elasticity of demand for CDs. So the formula for income elasticity right here is the percent change in demand based on the percent change in income. All this information we have. So we look at what her income was before, I1, it was $20,000 plus $25,000 divided by 2, divided by her first demand, which was 48, plus her second demand, which was 40, divided by 2, times, so the change in demand, which is negative 8 because it went down, that's important in this negative, and then the change in income, which is plus 5,000. So this equals, when you divide it all through, you get 22,500 all over 44 times negative 8 over 5,000. So you multiply those across, and you end up getting 511 times 0.0016, which equals negative 0.0016, which equals negative 0.82. So her income elasticity of demand for CDs is negative 0.82. And so what the negative means in this number is that this is an inferior good. It means that as you get more money, you actually buy less. You would think it'd be the other way around. For most things, they're normal goods, so when you get extra money, you're going to buy more. But for CDs, it's called an inferior good, for Alice particularly. So when you get more money, she buys less. So also we can say that CDs are an inferior good for Alice.
Now we're going to move on to the next example. Alice bought 48 CDs when income was $20,000. This year, her income increased to $25,000, and she purchased 40 CDs. What can we conclude? So the question reads, is Alice's price elasticity for CDs negative 1? This is kind of a trick question because the question is asking about price elasticity, and we only have the information for her income. So the answer would be no. We do not have enough information. So now let's look at a more complicated example. Same question, what is Alice's price elasticity of demand for CDs? So with this question, we have the pricing information. So Alice bought 48 CDs when the price was $10. The price increases to $12, and she purchases 40 CDs. With this information, we can now find the price elasticity of demand for CDs. Here I've already written out the equation we're going to need to solve for price elasticity of demand, and we're just going to go ahead and fill it in. This is using the midpoint formula. Your professor's formulas may vary. So going forward with these numbers, we do 48 plus 40 divided by 2 over 10 plus 12 divided by 2. And I'm just getting these numbers from the 48, 40, and then the old price of 10 and the new price of 12. And we're going to multiply this by the change in price, which was 2, divided by the change in quantity demanded, which was negative 8. So this comes out to, simplifying it, 88 divided by 2 over 22 divided by 2 multiplied by 2 divided by negative 8. We're going to continue this algebra on the next page. So our 88 over 2 simplifies to 44 over 11, and our 2 over negative 8 simplifies to 1 over negative 4. This further simplifies down to 4 times negative 1/4, and this equals negative 1 unit elastic. So this would be our price elasticity of demand.
Alright, what's up guys, I'm Ryan. I'm going to go over an example now of income elasticity. This time, as you'll see, of an inferior good. So remember, the definition of an inferior good is when income goes up, you consume less of it. So here the example I use is ramen noodles, because ramen noodles might not be your favorite food in the world, and so when you get more money, you'll probably consume less of it and substitute to another good. So you can see that's illustrated here by income going from 10,000 to 20,000, and then ramen consumption dropping from 10 boxes to 5 boxes. So what we're going to try and do is use this elasticity formula, this is the midpoint elasticity formula, to show you what happens with an inferior good and what that number should look like. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just start plugging into this formula. So we have I1 plus I2 over 2, which is the midpoint of the incomes. So that's 10,000 plus 20,000, so 30,000. Right, that's 30,000 divided by 2. That whole thing divided by the midpoint of the two demands, which is 7.5. That's 10 plus 5, 15, divided by 2. Right, times the change in demand, which is D2 minus D1, so 5 minus 10. Right, so negative 5. Divided by the change in income, so I2 minus I1, so 10,000. Okay, so the important thing to remember here is when you're doing the change in demand or the change in income, it doesn't matter if you do I2 minus I1 or I1 minus I2, but you have to be consistent between the demands and incomes. So you're checking in the same direction both times. Okay, this should simplify here. That gets us, that's just 15,000, 15,000 divided by 7.5 from 15 over 2 times negative 5 over 10,000. Okay, and 15,000 over 10,000, 5 goes into that, or rather 5,000 goes into that 3 times. So this becomes 3, that goes into that twice. And then 2.5 goes into that 2 times, and that 3 times. So this cancels out nicely and just becomes negative 1. And so that's what you should get. You should find a negative elasticity for an inferior good. And in the other examples, you'll see that when the good's normal, it should have a positive income elasticity of demand. Alright, now I'm going to do another example of income elasticity. This time our good is caviar, and as you might imagine, caviar is a normal good because when your income goes up, you consume more of it. So let's say that when your income is 10,000, your demand for caviar is 1 ounce, and when your income goes up to 20,000, your demand for caviar goes to 2 ounces. And as you saw before, when a good's inferior, it has a negative income elasticity. You should see here that there's a positive income elasticity. So we'll go ahead and plug these numbers in and see what we get. So remember, I1 plus I2 is just 30,000 divided by 2. 30,000 divided by 2, all divided by demand 1 plus demand 2 over 2, which is just 3 divided by 2. Right? times the change in demand. So always start with the second one and go to the first one. That's how I'm going to do it. So 2 minus 1 is 1, divided by change in income, which is 20,000 minus 10,000, which is 10,000. Right, we can simplify this a little bit. These 2's will cancel. Right, so we're going to get 30,000 over 3 is equal to 1 over 10,000. 1, sorry, times 1 over 10,000. Alright, and that's just 10,000. 30,000 over 3 is 10,000. And that's 1 over 10,000, so that just equals 1. Alright, so these were pretty simple examples, but it gets you the idea of when these things are moving in opposite directions, you should have a negative income elasticity, which corresponds with an inferior good. And when it gets normal, they're moving in the same direction, you should have a positive income elasticity of demand. I hope that helped you understand income elasticity a little bit better. If you have any more questions, come to the Econ Tutoring Center.